It's that time again. It's Plank of the Week on Talk Radio TV. And I'm delighted to say that today we are joined for the very first time by a legend of television. He is the one and only Jeremy Kyle. Has never for some reason been on Plank of the Week
Never
before.
been asked.
But now you have been asked. It's 2022 and I've brought you along somebody who's done it many times so she can help you out if you've got any confusion about any of the rules, about any of the things that we do. Belinda DeLucy, please no touching. You're not allowed to do any of that under the new rules of 2022. There is absolutely no...
I think you're objectifying my arm there.
Physical contact. No physical contact allowed. Now, Jeremy, since you're the first guest here today,
now.
I think you should nominate the first plank of this particular week.
And this can be anybody or anything.
It can be anything. We once had the entire Iranian government nominated as Plank of the Week.
That can't be difficult. Planks.
But none of us got assassinated as a result, so they obviously don't watch it over there. But anyway.
One of the things that I try and do on the show is always say, because there's a lot of really intelligent journalists that work on this station, both of you would be a great example, but I always think to myself about the person on the street, the person that is struggling to, pay their mortgage, heat their houses, whatever. So the boss of OVO, is it OVO Energy this week?
Yes.
This man said, I know we're going to treble your prices this week. This is the man from OVO. But I'll tell you what you should do. What you should do is cuddle a pet, eat some porridge, and then dance around a bit, do some star
Do
shapes.
some star jumps.
I don't know whether you can use words like I feel like using.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a plank. It begins
He really
in T.
is.
I mean, what an idiot.
I know.
When you are struggling and you think your electricity bill, your energy bill is going to go up because Boris seems to think all of us care about the green
Well, that's
community.
because he doesn't have to pay his own electricity bill.
Of course.
If you're in government, your electricity bill gets paid,
And I've said this as well, of course we all care about the planet, but actually most people care more about can they make ends meet.
Yes.
And the guy from OVO Energy goes, I tell you what, just cuddle a pet, I haven't got a pet, eat some porridge. It's not good for you, is it?
Porridge is good for you, actually.
Not packet porridge.
I recommend you get Scott's porridge oats and put a bit of honey in it and some milk. It's very nice.
Yeah?
Good,
you make that for yourself?
That's how I've lived this long and been this healthy.
You do?
One of the many reasons.
Yeah.
Your
So
body
it's
is a
not just red
temple.
wine, it's porridge as well.
No, the red wine in
What
the
about
evening.
red wine in the porridge?
No, I haven't tried
I like that idea.
haven't
I knew
tried
you
that.
Yeah,
would,
maybe a little
seriously.
bit of a-
Or maybe
But anyway,
Grand Buey,
that man or
Yeah.
idiot
Yes.
would, in my mind, be an absolute excellent plank of the week because that is like the sort of thing that you would say if you wanted everybody to hate you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, and he just confirms this whole idea I have of it being a massive middle-class guilt trip. This
Yeah.
whole green taxes, they're a bit bored. They want to feel better about the lovely lives they're living. So they just want to, slap on taxes to break the backs of the ordinary British working-class people. And
Quite
while
right.
he's spouting all this Charles Dickens rubbish about star jumps in the morning, glass of champagne at breakfast.
Yes.
Cuddle a pet.
Yeah.
Put hairs on
It
your
reminds
chest.
me of that great...
Cuddle a pet.
What's he talking
reminds me of
about?
that great story back in the day when people who used to be called tramps, I'm not sure what you call them now, would turn up...
It was a pop group in the old days. You could call it the Tramps.
Yeah,
Drunk
club.
and disorderly, this guy turned up in front of some magistrate's court in Croydon or something, and the judge, who was terribly well-spoken, had sort of come from the Old Bailey, he was on his rounds. And he said to this man, now, I know that you like a drink, he said, but I'm telling you right now, he said, you must not drink at all, and that means not even a small sherry before lunch. And the guy's going, he's onto the Thunderbird, But this is the thing. Yeah. Oh, so here's a weird thing. OVO Energy apparently is the third biggest energy supplier in the country.
It's extraordinary.
I'd never heard of them until today.
I'd never heard of them. And of course, they're all going bust and they're all raising their prices. And actually, we were talking about this before. The big debate going on at the moment about, what is conservatism and what did we vote for or whoever did or didn't vote for Boris Johnson. But the truth of the matter is, people will attack you and I and they'll go, don't you care about the environment?
Yeah.
And I jokingly say, no, not really, that's down to my kids. But I do, of course I do. But there are priorities. And the priority, my friend, is to eat your house and feed your kids and pay your bills, isn't it? It is not to be condescendingly spoken down to you by some jumped-up twit.
And also, these are the people, by the way, who are getting the 20% green subsidy that we
of course
pay.
they are,
Every time we get a bill, we pay these people 20%.
OVO Energy.
Yeah, someone's
OVO
making
energy.
a lot of
Oh,
money.
no, energy.
And
they
they're
should be
always
called.
dividing people into good and bad now. It was, good are the Remainers, bad are the Brexiteers. Now, good are the environmentalists, bad are the people who mind about a quarter of electricity bills now
But
being
why don't
green
they go
taxes.
into the environmental? This is what I don't... They go on about these green gases. Why don't you go to the countries that create all this problem? Why is
that's
it always
good.
good old Great
Also-
Well, not Great Britain anymore, because the wee one upstairs, I'm not allowed to even mention
you're not
her
allowed
name.
to say that.
Jimmy Cranky
not allowed to say that.
The wee
No.
little...
Honestly, her and that idiot in Wales, they can do one as well,
Drakeford,
can't
yeah.
they?
He- I mean-
What a
On your bike,
horrendous
son.
human being
I mean,
he is.
she made it onto Plank of the Week last week, and I think he might have done as well.
I think they should be honorary members.
Every week. They've kind of
really
replaced
should.
your Harry and Meghan every week.
Also, have you noticed with these Green campaigners, when they started locking up the Insulate Britain mob, they suddenly stopped demonstrating. They said, "Oh, nobody will stop us. Our right to demonstrate."
My favourite thing about
we don't mind
Insulate-
going to jail.
I know this is from weeks ago, but my favourite thing that came out about Insulate Britain was: did you notice that for half term they all stopped protesting because they'd gone to Marbella with their kids?
Yeah,
Do you know
on
what
a
I mean?
plane.
On a plane,
But
yeah.
they don't
strangely enough.
protest now because it's a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
And,
It is a bit cold.
Their Earl Grey
Also, I
tea
don't
will
fancy
go
any time with
cold.
Chokey either. I mean, it's not very nice in prison. I don't care what anybody says. It's like
Any experience?
Any
Any
middle class
experience?
boys. I can't say anything here.
No.
But I've been in prisons, obviously, for journalistic endeavours.
I
was
spent a night in prison for a
Did you? What did
program.
you
Yeah, I
do?
went to the. I went to the death chamber in Mississippi Federal Penitentiary.
Did you?
And the guy was like, "Do you want to sit in the chair?" I was like, "Not really, no. We're frightened you might flick the switch." I mean, he's a very weird guy.
Yeah.
So, "Do you want to see some pictures?" And I was like, "No." I mean, I got down to do a story about some boot camp, where young offenders were being put. And he made me go and look at the electric chair. Horrible looking thing. It's really old. Ghastly.
But at least they do
I think
prisons
they had it
proper
Radio
over there.
1, wasn't it, in those days?
yeah.
That picture. Anyway,
So,
OVO
yeah.
Energy.
So OVO Energy is a very good start.
How about from that
Good
to
start.
electric chairs? What a link. Let's
There
put
you
them
go.
together.
I mean,
That's the beauty
there
of
you go.
life.
Maybe that's another thing we could cut back on if we're going to save
Yeah.
the planet. No more executions.
Yeah,
in
no
electric
more
chairs.
executions in America.
Yeah.
That'll
Yeah.
save a bit of electricity.
Go with the what's the other thing they do? The fatal
Oh, yes,
injection.
lethal injection.
Yeah, never mind. Anyway, it's all got a bit dark.
Oh, sorry.
So you invite Kyle onto the show
Yeah.
and look where it
Gone
goes.
wrong,
It's already
yeah.
gone
Look, we're
dark.
talking
I
about
love it.
executions there. So, all right, Belinda, come on.
Oh, right.
First
My
one.
plank of the week is the Colston 4.
Oh, yes.
Or as I like to call them, the Colston Fanar. The Colston Fanar, compromising of like Willoughby and Digby and Tarquin and whatever their names are. They are my planks this week because they have confirmed to the UK that woke privilege, or AKA woke, class privilege, allows you to get scot-free off political vandalism.
Yes.
They've proved that point. They
Sorry,
came outside...
it's not political vandalism, it's just vandalism.
Well,
isn't it?
it's criminal
vandalism.
How
damage.
is it political vandalism?
Did you hear what I read though? That
Yeah.
somebody said that because they threw it in the water,
Yeah.
it's now worth 6 times the value, and their defence lawyers used that as one of the points legally, which was,
Right.
well, we haven't defaced something and ruined it. It's 300 grand's worth now. It's an artefact that's worth. It's
okay.
unbelievable.
Yes, and they claimed they didn't do any criminal damage. They were hammering it, jumping on it. They were covering
They
it in
threw paint on
spray.
it.
They were.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I feel like their smugness outside court, saying, we didn't change history, we rectified it. This whole white saviour,
God, really?
BLM protesters, saving.
Isn't it the jury then at the planks?
Well,
not these
actually,
wallies?
no. I have sympathy for the
Do
jury
you?
because if you think about it, the police during the BLM protest around the statue, the police did sweet FA.
Right.
They stood around allowing it to
Well,
happen.
they're not allowed to, are they?
So, well, they
Where's the
Brexit
statue?
protests or
Well,
other
they
protests
claimed they
step
were
in.
worried that if they did anything, then there would be violent disorder.
I don't
Just
blame
like
the
there
jury.
was-
I blame the jury a little bit. I blame the judge, who's probably
Yeah.
scared of the political
Yeah.
fallout
Yeah.
of
Right.
what's going to happen. I find it extraordinary that you can break the law and get away with
Yeah.
it by pontificating about something people are too goddamn scared to talk about.
Absolutely,
That's
but
what
this
it is.
isn't the first time it's happened. Do you remember the Stansted 15? The
Not
bunch
really.
of sort of
The
middle
Stansted
class.
15.
Stansted
Tried to
15.
get a flight.
I remember-
Tried to get a
yeah.
flight.
With a bunch of
What do you
middle
mean we're on standby?
Waitrose shoppers who basically clipped their way onto the runway, changed
Oh, yeah.
themselves around a plane because the
Which was
plane
late anyway.
was
Yeah.
trying to deport failed asylum seekers.
Yeah.
And the judge just gave them out some community,
They
orders.
might as well
and-
put the asylum seekers on Ryanair. It'd be a lot more
I-
efficient.
But they-
wouldn't it?
they-
Ryanair's
they-
never
they-
late.
they-
It never
got
get there.
quashed.
I wonder. My point is this, and it's probably a bit contentious. Do you think that if 4 racists attacked a statue of Nelson Mandela in the middle
Well,
of
people would-
wherever, do you think that they would have got off? Or
Yeah.
just leave that out?
Because
now?
that's one of the things.
Because I don't think they
one
would
of
have
the
got
things
off.
that they claimed they were doing was preventing crime, right? Because apparently by leaving the statue up, that was a constant hate crime for all the people that walked past who were somehow victims of criminality.
Well,
And you
everything
go,
can be a
"What?"
hate crime then. So Francis
Unbelievable.
Drake was a slave trader. He also circumnavigated the world on his own
Did he?
in the late 16th century. Are we going to now tear down his statues. James II owned slaves. Now, it was a horrific thing. This happened centuries ago. It was global.
Yeah, but you don't have to go very far to find slaves.
How far
right?
do we go
You
retrospectively?
can go into
That's what
Mayfair.
I mean.
You go into Mayfair right now, knock on a few doors, you'll find Filipino slaves chained up in the basement working for Saudi members of the royal family, right? That's what you'll find. You go to Leicester, where the garment trade is run, which has been in lockdown, I think, ever since the lockdown started, because the travel backwards and forwards to the Indian garment districts is unbelievable, right? And they've got slaves sleeping on floors, 10 to a room.
But they have no political
But these people
use.
don't care about them.
They don't care about them. It is hypocritical. The other thing I worry about is that it's starting a ball rolling of this kind of privilege. If you are a political activist of a certain right thinking, a lefty, which all the kids are being brought up to be in schools at the moment, and you come out and you think, actually, it's my right to desecrate and destroy things that cause me offence.
Yeah.
It's actually, it may not have set a legal precedent, but it set a conscious one.
We'd have been too scared. I'd have been too scared of the police, and I'd been too scared of my mum.
But the police are on their
Seriously?
side.
Yeah.
The police are on their side. They've been so politicised, the police, that actually, if you are on the right side of their thinking, you'll get away with things.
We're all of an age, right? Genuinely, without going into it, but it does. You do end up thinking, where does this end? When I was a kid, if somebody said, "A policeman, I'm gonna, you're coming back to your mum with your right,"
It wouldn't
Nothing
happen.
now. They just laugh.
Yeah, I know.
Teachers have no control.
No.
The police have no control. Everybody's running amok, and you can do that, and you can get some legal. I had a QC on the show last week. It looked like he'd chewed a wasp. He looked at me like I'd gone into his house on Christmas Day and burnt all his presents. He said, "No, you're being disrespectful about the British legal system." I said, "There's 12 people on the judge who have patently been affected by a political campaign.
And also, they
it's
called,
not a judgment that's reasonable."
a professor, didn't they? That rather controversial professor.
Yes.
They called him before the case to argue that Colston was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the trial. Nothing to do with
They
criminal.
renamed the Colston Hall in Bristol because I used to work there. They've named it the Bristol Beacon or something.
I used to know the Colston Hall. I interviewed, what's his name from Teardrop Explodes there. What was his name?
I don't know.
Do you remember that band, Teardrop Explodes?
Yeah, I do. How old are
Julian
we?
Julian Cope, was it? Julian Cope. Yeah, who ended up becoming like a documentary filmmaker.
He didn't in the end, did he?
Did he?
Cope.
No.
No.
That's very good.
Hey.
Bit of
nice.
showbiz inside gossip there.
Bit of gossip. Me and old mate Mikey. Me and old Mikey Gray, mate, having a bit of a chat.
Yeah,
The
but
worst
Bristol
thing
has become the Wild West, though, because they got the mayor, because they quoted the mayor in the case, who said they'd done a great thing. They quoted the superintendent of police, who also congratulated them and said, well done.
No one
And
wants
you're
to
going,
celebrate slavery
"What?"
in Bristol, but they at least wants a chance.
Nobody should want to celebrate
democratically remove
slavery
things.
at all, but you
Ever.
get to a point where there has to be a right, I think, a wrong way of doing things, and I find it extraordinary, and it makes you think as you go forward that you can break the law if you've got public opinion on your side.
And there was
Exactly
no
right.
humility. They came out so smug and
that.
so like, oh, they made my skin crawl, because they could have
Completely
said,
agree.
do you know, it was the wrong way of doing it, but we believe we were doing the right thing. But no, they came out lecturing us all again as if they were kind of
but it's
saving
not the first time,
country
because this
from
happened
themselves.
last year with the Extinction Rebellion. The guys that went to Canary Wharf and broke all the glass on the banking buildings, right? They got found guilty, I think, by a jury, and the judge didn't
And
punish them.
scot-free.
Just let them off.
And then you got that poor bloke who weed on that memorial outside Parliament, who got a prison sentence.
Well, that's because he was a right winger.
Well, exactly, wrong
I mean,
politics.
he can't be doing that.
So, you know, and the Tories are in power. What are they doing? You know, it's crazy. But anyway,
we'll get
they're
to
my
that.
planks.
Yes.
We'll get to
Colston
that.
Fanars.
Well, my first plank this day is, in fact, an entire country, Australia, because Australia has behaved. I mean, everybody always thought of Australia as this kind of really rather benevolent sort of place where people travelled from all over the world to get to. People from Australia came here and worked in bars like the Walkabout, and they're all right, mate, you know, and everyone was lovely, and they were very liberal. Turns out they're not like that at all. Turns out that all the people that don't travel out of Australia are actually pretty horrible, and the Australian government is completely mad. And the Novak Djokovic stuff, I mean, just remarkable, isn't it?
Nuts. And 2 years ago, he had donated a huge lump sum of money to the Australian bushfire charities. So he is actually quite a good friend to Australia and the Australian people.
Read,
and this
read that Scott Morrison, that the Prime Minister, there's an election in 4 weeks. So you wonder whether a lot of this is pontificating.
Well, there's a lot of people,
and
because they've been locked
stancing.
down. Do you know, last time I checked, anyway, they didn't have even 1,000 deaths from COVID, right?
My mate lives in Sydney. They've been locked down for 9 and 2 years.
And they get one case and they lock down the entire state or the entire country. And it seems incredible to me that so many of the people, even people that I know that live there, have become very draconian.
They're still at it as we speak. They're
don't
still
want
saying
people
that he
coming.
might have lied on his form, and
And they
he was
might
in
still,
Serbia,
they might still pull him out of the competition,
and he could be jailed.
which would be
What's wrong?
bonkers.
Maybe it's gone to their head. You know, you had Brexit derangement syndrome.
yeah.
I think they've got COVID derangement syndrome. Australia and New Zealand, in fact, Australasia.
I don't think
there
I'm
are
ever
more
going to go.
Brits
You know, I've
over
never
there
been
than
there.
in the whole of the EU.
I don't think I'm going to go now. I don't want to.
Do you
Why
not?
would you
No,
want to?
because, I mean, Julie Hartley-Brewer got it right. She called it the prison island.
Well, let's
Because
not
that's what
lie.
it's like.
Let's talk about heritage.
Yeah. Well, do you know what Helen Dale always says? She
Just
says,
leave that out there.
No, just
Remember
put it
that
out
the people who lived in Australia all those years ago were not just convicts, but they were their jailers as well, which is quite
So you've got
profound.
yeah.
So there's a lot of people there that like locking people up. And I've always been sort of vaguely fascinated by Australia, but it's so far away. I think it's now lost complete touch with the rest of the world.
But its appeal was the laid back, put a shrimp
Yeah,
on the barbie,
exactly.
pass us a beer.
I
and
mean, it's a long...
everyone's-
It's a long
Australia, not Canada.
it's a long way, I mean, it's a long way from Crocodile Dundee, isn't it?
Exactly, but they weren't.
No, that's a
politically
knife.
That's not a knife.
That's a knife,
That's a
mate.
knife, mate.
I'll show you a big knife.
No, I love it. Well, that's yeah.
Do you?
But
He looks awful now, him. Have you
He's
seen
like a
him?
great
I haven't
paper
seen
crinkle.
Crocodile Dundee for ages.
I
No,
love
no,
that.
Paul
I wanna
Hogan's
watch it.
80 now, and
Is he?
it's really disappointing.
Well, I mean, people are 80, they do look a bit old.
They
That's what
do.
he said, generally speaking.
Yes.
Anyway,
But it's a shame. Yeah,
but
they've-
Australia, yeah.
I don't think they're coming back from that. I think the World Tennis Association should basically strip them of the Australian Open and say that's no longer, you're so petty now,
Yeah.
you cannot any longer be part of the World Grand Slam.
Although
So
I
if
would
you want to be a
say-
little petty little country like Liechtenstein, no offence, you know, you go ahead and be that.
No, they're not very welcoming, but they should have the right to control their own borders and
course.
decide who comes in and out of their
And
country.
if he's
That I
lied,
respect.
because he's, he's quite vocal about what he believes. Before you tell me that's he's right, he's an anti-vax. If he did,
Well, he's
if
not
the-
an anti-vaxxer. He
All right,
never
but if the
told anybody
truth,
not
if the
to get
truth
it.
is he went from Spain to Serbia in 2 days.
Right.
As he had it, apparently, if they find a lie, but it's got beyond that. It's usually just got to the point where everybody's going, "You're just being really
Yeah, they're being
petty,
petty and
Australia."
stupid.
But also, they gave him permission to come. The reason I mean, I was saying
Yeah.
on the day that he landed and got detained, can you imagine being his manager? Because you know what these guys are like. You know, they've got this entourage. And can you
Oh, I went
can you
right
imagine
off
the
on one
manager
of the
going, I'll tell you what, you said it was safe to come. Now they put him in this hotel. You're fired.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be happy.
His mum
would you?
said he's got. I can't do a Serbian accent. He's got no clothes. And I was like, oh, bless him. It
Oh,
must be
I heard you
Yeah,
saying he
hang
could
on a
buy the
minute.
hotel.
Well,
I
just
mean, that's
stop
what I
moaning
would
about
do.
Yeah.
the buy the hotel,
Yeah.
you idiot. Do you know what I mean? Just moaning about it.
But I mean, he may
I know,
not
they are
be.
milking it a little bit.
The family keep having press conferences.
Yeah,
He's
it's
a
like,
tennis
hang on a
player.
second.
Yes.
not
Well,
ju-
no, he's now a cultural hero.
He's
And
Jesus
also-
in
Well,
Serbia,
have you-
isn't he?
Well, he is. Have you seen the way they greet him when he goes back to Serbia? It's like forget about the sort of the Real Madrid, parading of the Champions League. It's unbelievable. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people come out, and he's on an open top
Because
bus.
he's the only thing famous that's come out of Serbia.
Well, and he's manly.
all right, can you
macho,
think-
and
is
that's
he?
well, the Australians used to be like that. They used
Can you
to
think
be
of anything other that's
Yeah.
come out of Serbia that's famous?
yeah,
What?
Slobodan Milosevic.
That's rude.
Yeah, well,
Who was not quite such
He's
a
in The
nice
Hague,
man.
isn't he? He's
Yeah,
not in
he's
Australia.
right,
He's,
yeah,
he's in
no,
The
no.
Hague,
War crime.
Slobodan Milosevic.
I
Yeah.
think he's dead. He's never heart attack.
I've got no idea. But
remember.
big
Yeah,
bushy
one of those
eyebrows,
evilest
massive
man
bushy
on-
eyebrows.
Radovan
Made
Karadzic
Dennis
is another
Healy look
wasn't very
bald.
nice.
That wasn't
either.
a great addition to the who's great in Serbia list.
So there's nobody else, is there?
Well, there probably are. We're probably being unfair. But
Go on
anyway.
then, think about it.
Well, Andrew Bridgen's wife is from Serbia.
Who's?
Andrew Bridgen is a Tory MP.
All right.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bridgen.
Mrs. Bridgen. Not like
Mrs.
Mrs.
Mrs. Bridgen, not going
Anyway, we digress.
Anyway.
Back to you already for your number 2.
Yeah, I was sort of. I mean, you can't go past this story this week, and this is the serious one. I have been quite a vocal supporter of Boris initially. I have watched with sort of undue horror as everything has sort of just come out. The Owen Paterson debacle and then Partygate. Read an amazing article. My plank of dual planks of the week, and not only him, but his personal private secretary, Martin Reynolds, I think it is.
Yes.
They found an email this week, one of the newspapers, and it says, and I quote, in the midst of the worst type of lockdown,
Yeah.
where you weren't even allowed to go up to one
May
person-
2020.
May 2020.
Yeah.
And this is an hour after Oliver Dowden, the then culture secretary, did a press conference saying, when you're outside, you can stand 2 feet away from one person.
Yeah.
Some idiot, Martin Reynolds / Boris Johnson, thought it was okay. And I can't even say this with a smile on my face, to send an email to 100 people in the number 10 office and go, it's really hot actually today and you've worked very hard. Bring your own bottle and we'll all meet in the garden. Are you taking... I've been quite loud that he would see this through. To me, that is absolutely... the end,
Yes.
without any shadow of a doubt.
I
We
don't
go
see
back
how
to
they
what-
come back from it.
How can you come back from that? And of
No.
course, Cummings is sitting somewhere going,
Yeah.
but what an idiot.
Imagine being Mrs. Cummings, by the way. Could you come out of the back room? Dinner's ready.
Yeah.
You've been
I
in
think
there for
all
days now.
politicians are doing it. All politicians politicians.
Whether they were or
Come on,
not.
Dom.
Oh,
Whether
come
they were or
on.
not, here's what I want to know
Yeah.
is do these people not think this was going to come out? Did they not
No, it was
think
stupid.
that...
It was careless.
I mean, given that almost everything they do is filmed in some way, shape,
I know.
or form,
Yeah.
if not by their own in-house people, by Rishi Sunak's people up the,
Yes, who's
on
like
the next balcony,
chomping at the
who are going,
bits.
"Oh look, we're going to get that on.
I
We're
can't
going to
get
get that on
to him
film."
either, but that's another
No,
story.
absolutely
no.
not.
Guilty by association, mate.
But
It'll
so
be
are you
something
making?
left
Are you
field.
making Reynolds the plank then for sending out the email? You
I don't know
can.
how long Boris Johnson
'Cause
will
I
be
could
able
do
to
Boris
behind.
as well, 'cause
Yeah,
we could do Boris
Reynolds,
separately.
who wanted an ambassadorial role. He thought
Yeah.
he was going to be ambassador to Australia, but he wouldn't get in anyway. No,
Well,
he's buggered. But
not
I
now.
mean, I cannot, and I'm being completely serious, I cannot fathom that people in high-paid jobs who are supposed to be intelligent, somebody would not go, Belinda, listen, before you send that, in the country, you can't go near one person. You're sending an email saying 100. Do you not think somebody would have gone to him and gone, you're an idiot?
Also, have they never had the conversation that we've all had at some point or other in our careers where they go, be very careful what you put in an email. Just be very
Yes.
careful.
It's wonderful that I'm on social media and don't send emails.
Well,
Save
they
me.
should repay everyone's fine. Anyone who had to
Yeah,
fork
this
out,
is- yeah.
they should get
Well,
their money back.
look at all the people who have been putting things out. Piers Morgan put out from that very day when they had the party a picture of him and his son Spencer in his garden, who he hadn't seen for something like several weeks.
I didn't see my dad for
Standing-
9
Yeah.
months.
I
in the
didn't
care
see my
home.
kids for 8 weeks because I thought I can't go to Sussex because it's too far. I didn't actually know. This is going to sound mad now, but I didn't know, even though I had a sort of a key worker card, if I might get stopped by the cops on the M25
It was
to
quite
say
frightening.
you can't come
And
back to
you
London.
said this earlier. I have friends who buried people
Yeah.
and couldn't go
Yeah.
anywhere
And that is the terrible part.
near a funeral.
No.
Actually, a couple of friends and 7 people. I think it's disgusting. And it's those human stories when people go, hold on a second. So in May 2020, my mum died, my sister died. I couldn't go to the funeral, and he's having cheese and none. I can't
And you
say
know what's also
taking the
worse
mic.
is that we're paying probably. I mean, I imagine all these people that said bring your own booze. I bet they put the receipt in and claimed
It's
it
not
back
even
on the
that to me.
taxpayer.
It's the
but
absolute
it makes it worse.
stupidity.
I think it is the stupidity as well, because Boris has squandered his popularity.
That's what annoys me.
Everyone voted for him. He had this stonking majority, and he spent
World
the
at his
last
feet.
couple of years squandering his majority popularity, courting the Greens, cheating people out of their
Completely
funerals
agree.
and saying goodbye to people where they could have had funerals outside, like he had his party
Yes.
outside. They could
I
have
heard
been
you
middle up
say,
ones.
I don't think outside was ever a problem. I think that was the
Yeah.
biggest...
Yeah.
Why-
Could you not say that they knew that then? So we're all stuck in our houses and they're in the garden,
Yeah.
100 of them getting drunk.
We all
Without
knew being
ludicrous.
outside was fine.
Well,
and yet the police...
then why
were-
weren't we allowed to do it?
But I remember they would tell people to get up because I remember watching what was going on in like London parks and stuff like that because the weather was quite nice and they were going up to people and disrupting a picnic because there were 3 people sitting on 2 different mats going, you can't have 3. You have to
Intimidating,
go.
frightening. The police, you saw the clips that were sent around Twitter, harassing old people off benches,
Yeah.
power trips galore, people having to fork out for frightening people. That's what I don't
Today,
like.
the reason I made it him both of them planks was genuinely without being soft. Today was the first time when I read that and I thought back to the old man
Yeah.
and I thought, I saw him behind glass for 9 months.
Right.
And you're in the guard. Personally, that's what I thought this
Yeah.
morning. If I'm thinking that, millions of
course.
genuinely
And I
are
would
personalising
just
it.
add on Boris Johnson because he's going to go in his own right as well. His compulsion to just now lie one lie after another.
Why doesn't somebody tell him?
Yeah.
Because he's now doing, and I said this before, he's now doing to the country what he did to all of his ex-wives. You know, when you're in trouble, and I don't want to say this from personal experience, but, you've been caught out, you just want to get out the door.
Just
You'll
completely.
say anything just to get out the door. You'll go, look, you'll make somebody ring you anything just to get away. And that's what he's now
That
doing.
marriage guidance.
I know,
by
thank
Mike
you, I know
Graham.
what
It's a
you're
new
saying.
concept.
But that's what he's
Marriage-
doing. Now, where were
Do you
last
think he
night?
knows? Do you think he... I mean, I hear
think
lots
he doesn't
of people...
know any other way.
I know lots of people who say to me all the time, but this is what he is. There was no
Yeah.
substance. Richard will say to me,
Yeah.
there's no substance. He was always going to be found out. Do you not think now he lies in bed at night, thinks, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah,
Or
I
is
think
he
he
still...
does.
Or does he just...
But I think his kind of reaction is just to immediately just tell a lie. I mean, he was asked today on camera by Sky,
Yeah, he was.
were you at this event or not? And he said, well, of course, I can't answer that question.
Why
because-
can't he?
Well,
He knows
because
if
he
he's there
doesn't
or
know
not.
whether he was there or not unless the investigators tell him that he
Has
was
he got
there.
a diary?
And then they tell him again, ask him again, he starts sort of smirking.
But
He's
it's
like,
so
you shouldn't be
disappointing.
smirking.
People lent him their vote. We all got excited about
And
him,
gave
and he's
him
just
their
treated
belief.
us.
Yeah.
Treated us.
Gave
like-
him their
And,
belief.
by the time this is out, it might be out hopefully later tonight, but by Prime Minister's questions, they're going to ask him again, were you there or not? It's a very simple question. He still hasn't answered
He needs
it.
more backbone. I
does.
think, because I don't think many people, actually, I don't think a lot of people want him to go. They're too frightened
I
of the
think if he
alternative.
actually came out and said, look, I made a big mistake I should have told you this earlier.
Yeah.
I was there. I didn't think it was a problem. We thought we
because
were
it was a work environment and it was the
And,
garden.
but just
You're
give us
telling me somebody
something.
couldn't spin that?
Yeah.
The problem, you're so right, Mike. The problem is, whilst he continues to dead bat everything and never... See, I've said before about politicians, don't you think that they would get more credence with the British public if they opened up and said, yes, I made a mistake, I'm just human.
I got this wrong.
Apparently
I'm
you
sorry.
can't do that. I don't agree with that at all. Just, you and I have
you got it
always
wrong,
believed that. We've messed up.
Although, as I've said to you before, I've never been wrong, or at least I can't remember the last time I was wrong.
I can.
Yeah,
I
the
can.
last time I was wrong.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just
When was
then.
that? When? Oh.
Yeah. No, but do you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, do you not think being normal with the British people would actually resonate more than this continual BS, which doesn't get him anywhere?
Because now the problem is people are laughing at him.
Yeah.
He has no respect. He has no credibility. And
he's done it to himself. He hasn't had an easy year. He had Brexit, then newborn, and COVID, and all these things attack him in a way.
In the middle there,
in
he didn't
terms
have
of
to have 2 more kids, did he?
Well, maybe to seal the deal. Who knows what went on?
I tell you, it might sound ridiculous. I was driving down the M25 on Saturday, and 3 successive bridges, there were big posters of him saying, "Get out of our country."
Right.
Now, that is when, whatever anybody says, that is when it starts.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I'm not sad about it. I'm annoyed. I'm a bit like you. I read that Sarah Vine amazing article in the Mail. She said, I watched my now ex-husband. I know how hard these people work, and I'm really, really angry with them all for throwing away a great opportunity and tarnishing what they did. And that's what's happened.
A lot of
and I
Tory
don't think he
voters
can
feel
drag
like
it
that.
back.
No, I don't think he can.
I'd really struggle to vote for him right now because I
that's
don't.
what people are saying all the time now when they call it. I'm never voting for the Tories again as long as he's in charge.
Well, it's not a Conservative Party anymore anyway. He's made it a Liberal mess and he hasn't shown any backbone.
And the thing is, if he had other things going on that were good, that would be different. But he hasn't. He's got taxes going up. He's got the green thing going on.
Well, I didn't read that quote on the radio that somebody, and I'll probably get it wrong, Mike. You might like this. Somebody came on and said, the thing about Boris Johnson is I voted for a libertarian conservative. I voted blue.
Yeah.
Who's become green and spent so much money, we're now in the red. And I thought, actually, that's a really, really good analogy.
And it didn't have to be like that. Whoever advised him or whatever pickle he's in that made him have to court the Greens, they betrayed the voters. I don't understand. They're never going to win them over.
He's got all these people telling him he's hanging around with the wrong people. Carrie's massively green.
She's into elephants, isn't
she's
she?
into elephants. Well,
she married Boris Johnson.
And I think she's
I'll
super
let you make
woke
that
as
joke.
well.
And then, of course, Zach Goldsmith and all these multi-millionaires from Richmond who think it's a great idea to drive a Tesla. No, I didn't think I'd get the £75,000 one. I thought I'd get the one that's 120.
Is that the one that drives itself into a wall?
Yeah, well, yeah. Drives you
but
completely crazy.
I don't know who'd be better at the moment or who could win against Labour, because Labour getting in would be the worst.
I'll tell you who'll get the job.
Labour are never getting in.
They'll do a Man
know.
United and get an interim. It'll be somebody like Gove to steady the ship. I'm coming round to that idea.
I quite like the idea of Liz Truss, actually. I quite like the look of her. You know, I think
have
she'd be good.
concerns about her. She's a steadfast, was a steadfast.
Yeah, but you've got to move
I think
on
she's
from that.
trying to become Thatcher.
I think she's expect that from you. I
she's
thought-
playing a game.
True, but she had many opportunities to come out against Stonewall and against and out against the Northern Ireland Protocol, and actually with action rather than words. But she's just doing the words thing that we've had all along.
Yeah.
When she has some action about her, then I'll be like, yeah, come on, Truss.
Okay, all right. Who's your second
So
nominee?
my second plank is the UK border force.
Speaking of people that don't do their jobs very well.
I mean, this is. I mean,
we've got a police force that doesn't arrest anyone. We've got a
know.
border force that doesn't stop anyone coming in.
A government who lies to
government
everybody.
lies.
NHS doesn't want any patients because that
Monty
messes everything
Python
up.
needs to do a whole series over this. Yes, it is the UK border force, although I think they have the force of a wet fart, to be honest.
Yeah.
They have come out the past few days threatening to strike their union,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
their workers'
Yeah,
union, 80% of which are border force officials, are taking the Home Office to court because of Priti Patel's turn the boats back policy, which consists of 3 jet skis coming up against a dinghy and blocking it and turning it round and escorting it. But it has to meet like 9 million conditions
Mind you, to be fair, I'm not sure like reenacting scenes from Baywatch is the way to keep the nation safe.
I
honestly
honestly despair. I'm beginning to despair. If you take
This is
these
the best they
9
can
things,
do.
Yeah.
where do we? What?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Again.
Listen, I've got the answer for this, right? And I've said it many times on the show. You simply go to the beaches of Normandy with a gun, and don't worry, I'm not going to threaten violence. As soon as you see a dinghy, you just put a bullet in it, right? And they can't get in it then, can they?
Yeah, but
This is
maybe
what I
warn them
don't
so they
understand.
don't get in.
I'm not as intelligent as you two, so I've
That's a
said
bit
this on the
scary.
radio a few times. You're forensic journalist. You know, they say to me they've got to come here, the immigrants, because, and they'll argue and they'll say, you don't know what it's like to live in war-torn Pakistan.
Right.
I don't.
No.
But France isn't at war.
No.
Why isn't France okay?
But then they say, but it's not very nice where they live
I
in
don't
France.
give a damn if it's not very nice.
Okay.
Why don't you stay there for a bit?
Yeah.
Why is it always good old Blighty?
Because the internment camps are not very nice. You remember when who was it that went over there? I think it was A.A. Gill or somebody who went over to the refugee camps, I kid you not, to do a review of the food. Actually did.
Do you know who he's married to?
A.A. Gill? Yeah. Well, he's not anymore, he's
He
not.
died.
See, very clever. Who was he married to? Who's he have a kid with?
Yes, I do
Amber
know.
Rudd.
It's a former Home
Oh,
Secretary.
Amber Rudd.
Yes. Because their
Wingo.
daughter is on Twitter.
But my point is this: it's always Great Britain, isn't it? We'll come here and
Yeah,
I
because
don't
we have to
understand.
atone for our past, which is exactly what our children are getting taught in schools
Yeah.
now. Oh, open borders are nice and kind. No, they're not. Open borders is an extreme position that destroys the demos and cohesive communities and citizenship. It is an incredibly extreme
And who
position.
started the policy?
And
Tony Blair.
Tony Blair.
Yeah.
And open borders is dangerous. And these wallies saying they're going on strike, do your worst, Border Force, because it's like you've been on strike for the past 3 years anyway.
how
You've
would
done
we know?
diddly squat.
What do you
What's
mean?
the difference?
So-
Because the
so-
queue's always a
difference?
mile.
So instead of help, maybe actually a good thing if they go on strike because they won't be helping them to come.
Maybe
to
it'll be more
there you go.
efficient.
You know,
Exactly.
They won't be able to get
Exactly
in.
that.
There we go. I see. I'm in
Go on
support.
strike, all of you, go.
They're not flakes after all. It's a
Exactly.
cunning plan.
It's a cunning
by
plan
Priti
to stop
Priti
us.
Patel has finally found a way around the
How
immigrant
is she
problem.
still in a job?
How?
Well,
Because you know how many
Apparently
times...
she's good friends with Boris. Apparently that's why she's still there.
She's not very tall, is she?
She isn't, but I
Don't believe so.
I think she's up against a wave of the civil service at the moment. Think they're beacons of human rights lecturing nerds that want to talk to the plebs about how awful they are in this country.
Sack 'em
They
all,
don't
then. They're not
do their
elected.
job.
They're
So
not
why
elected.
don't
Sack
they
'em
get
all.
sacked? Why are these Border Force officials saying
Look, I mean,
we're not
Dominic
doing our
Cummings
job?
tried
Get
to sack
sacked.
them, didn't he? I mean, she's tried to sack people.
Who?
Dominic Cummings tried to
Yeah,
sack
it's the only
people.
thing
He
I
said he
liked
was supposed
about
to
him.
clean up the civil service. He didn't
He
clean
needed-
any of it
yeah,
up,
no,
though.
He didn't, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I admire that, but I'm going to stick up for Boris a minute. Although people will say he shouldn't have got rid of Dominic Cummings, you can't rule by fear. Dominic Cummings,
Well, you can.
within about 2 minutes of being sacked, you turn around and say, "But he's not good enough to be Prime Minister." You
Yeah.
got him there, you idiot,
Right.
you
Yeah.
duplicitous, bald-headed
I do
And he's
idiot.
agree.
done nothing.
He's like-
And he's
he's
done
a bit
Hold on a
nothing.
slimy
second. If
now.
you hadn't been sacked, you wouldn't have released any of this information at the parties that I'm sure you went to. But suddenly it's easy to say, "Well, I told him it was wrong."
yeah, he's a bit of a
That's
snake
what I mean.
now.
He's a real
Snake.
obsessive, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
you
like
do worry
him.
about
He's
it. You do worry
one
about it.
egomaniac.
Yeah.
But someone has to come out really strongly against civil service starting to refuse to do their jobs on the basis of their, politics,
It's
whatever.
worse than that. The
Sack
the
them.
civil service were in planks last week because they've been told that they can stay off, they can self-certify themselves off until January the 25th if they wish.
Why
if
is
they're
that?
not feeling very well, they don't need to go to a doctor. They can just stay off.
It's madness.
I
What
mean,
message does that send to the next generation?
Unbelievable.
And their behaviour in the channel are encouraging more people to come and risk their
Right.
lives. This is what they don't understand. They're not being nice.
maybe we
They're
should give the
encouraging human
immigrants the jobs
traffickers.
in the civil service because famously, once people come here,
Yes.
they don't want anybody else to
This
come.
is true.
Right? They pull the
This
ladder
is
up.
true.
They go, right, well, I got in,
yeah.
and now you can get stuffed.
So this is a great idea.
Maybe that's what we should
This
do.
is the political
I think
party
this
you
is
guys
brilliant.
are. Sorry, this is great.
Yeah, there we are.
What are we gonna
100%.
call it?
They would do a better job than
Well,
our
instead of
border
the
force.
My
civil
son went to sleep while he was watching this.
Yeah, well, listen, he could get a job at the civil service,
This
look
is
after you in your
exciting
dotage. With his index-linked
Yes, I like
pension.
this.
You can retire when you're about 43. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I honestly, I'm going to leave this studio today feeling like the world's going to end. I'm turning
we're
into
just
my
venting.
dad live on radio and
This is-
television
this is
every day.
just
and I'm quite
therapy
proud.
for everyone.
It is therapy,
We
but
just
it's
need
nice
that
to know
out.
there's three of us.
Yeah.
anyway.
Right,
Exactly.
absolutely right. Now, one of the things we do, because I've already kind of nominated Boris Johnson,
Yes.
so I've sort of done my second
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
We carry one over from last week because we need to make 10, obviously. It's the top 10
Yeah.
plates of the week. So my nomination to carry over is Sir Keir Starmer. Not least because, and I'm not trying to be unkind here, but he's self-isolating again 6 times
It's
now.
1,104 times he's
I mean-
had COVID.
I mean-
and do you know, I ended up feeling sorry for this bloke.
Did you?
I'm going to interview him, right? So genuinely, we've got an interview lined up, and I could try. He's always, whether it's in contact or got coronavirus or whatever, every time he relaunches the Labour Party, tomorrow's the big
Yeah.
relaunch. I've
Yes.
had my spare.
My vision.
I've got COVID again.
Yeah.
This is my new manifesto. I've got COVID.
But the great thing as well about him is that when he goes into isolation, his popularity goes up. which is brilliant. You know,
when
so
he closes his mouth
as soon
and
as he
doesn't speak for a
disappears,
while,
you know,
it's
they
like
become more
balls.
popular, and he leaves old Angela Rayner in charge. You know,
she's
And what do we come
I'll tell you what,
to?
it's
imagine?
Tory scum.
You scum, the lot of you.
The way it's going, she'll be the next Prime Minister.
That should be
Angela-
great fun,
God,
actually.
I'm scared.
Can you imagine? It'd be
Actually,
like,
she would be fun.
be like a
Shoes.
sketch from the young ones.
The country
it
would
would,
go
yeah.
to the dogs,
Yeah.
but
would
it'd be
it?
fun.
Well, you mean any more than
Well,
it is now?
actually-
But nothing works.
I think there's some.
I mean,
yeah,
there's literally nothing that works
That
in
is
this
true.
country
Police
anymore.
force doesn't work.
Nothing.
No, NHS
the police,
doesn't
yeah.
work. The
He
teachers-
there's no drive
I tried to get a
people
phone
exercise
delivered, right?
more.
And I all the way through my
Yeah.
contract with this particular company, I've always had them send it to a shop. I don't want to send it to my house because I'm never there, and then you can't ever see it, right? I said, well, and they said, oh, we can't send it to the shop anymore. I said, why not? They went, COVID. I said, what? Why can't you send it to a shop? The shops are open. I can go into the shop, but you can't send me a phone that I can pick up in the shop. No, we can't. So I then went on the internet, tried to put the shop's address in, right? Then walked into the shop and said, I've given this address as where I want it delivered. Will it come to you? And the guy went, no. I said, why not? He said, well, we can't deliver to a shop. I went, but I'm standing here talking to you about a phone that I'd like to have delivered to you so you give it to me. But if you had my phone, you couldn't give it to me because... Right? And do you know what they ended up doing? They couldn't deliver it here because it's too big of a building, they said, right? And then they ended up delivering it to the local Sainsbury's, which is a shop. And that's what's going on in this country. It took a month.
You've got to laugh. And let's be honest.
This is why this country is knackered. I want to use another word, but I can't.
On a positive
Knackered's
note,
good.
knackered is good. On a positive note, we are doing much better than all the crazy extreme countries
that's
out
true.
there mandating vaccines.
That's true.
My sister just
But to
came
be
for
honest,
a
I
visit
didn't
from
grow up
Canada,
in Great
and they're all
Britain.
like this. Their
But,
nerves
yeah.
are shredded from being in
Well,
Canada
in New
and
York
locked
City,
down for 2 years.
in New York City, where I was supposed to go, they're arresting children for going to
Right.
restaurants with their parents because they're not vaccinated.
We have to be grateful for small mercies. We are,
Not
as a
much
country,
difference.
doing
When I
well
was
on COVID.
This is genuinely true story. It's completely irrelevant to Plank of the Week. When we were doing the Jeremy Kyle show years and years and years ago in America, we did 2 seasons, and we went to a very famous steakhouse in New York. Don't even ask me to remember it. There's all sorts of TV executives in it, and we had this most amazing
Those
prawn
steakhouses are
cocktail.
amazing, aren't they?
And then he went, "Do you want one?" And I went, well, "This is absolutely true." He said, "What?" He said, they come now, the doctor, and will give you one in the ass. Listen, in the and what? Vitamin B injection. And they literally, Americans, they eat their starter and they go off and the doctor comes and I thought I'd try this out. And I came back and before I had my steak, I had somebody stick an
It's a remarkable country.
Was that even on the menu?
No, it was not D or B or whatever it is
Yeah.
to make everybody...
Oh, my gosh.
Never been to a restaurant
No.
where I've had prawn cocktail, a jab in the backside, followed by a nice steak.
Oh, my
You've never
God.
been to the West Village then?
Not getting involved. There we go. Moving on.
Listen, I remember when I lived in America and walking into I was at Chicago O'Hare or something. Walked into and there was these 2 guys washing their hands, having a conversation about cholesterol, which I'd never heard of. What's your count? Oh yeah, it's 134. I'm going, I don't know what they're talking about. They've been talking about cholesterol, then it suddenly became a thing, and everybody now talks about cholesterol.
Best city in America, by the way, Chicago.
Chicago's great, isn't it?
Loved
Yeah,
it, loved it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So now, time for your third.
Yes, so I'm not a massive fan of the BBC for all sorts of. I don't know about you. You probably could actually work at the BBC. I think Mike Graham and I are 2 of the along with Piers, perhaps the 3 people in British broadcasting who got no chance of working.
But
for
that's
that
an insult saying that
ridiculous-
I could work
I
there.
think you could, but I think that you'd be all right.
No, you'd probably be shunned even more.
I'd be so shunned because I'm a woman. I've betrayed the fair sex
betrayed
of
the fair
nice
sex, yeah.
ladies.
Nice
The
ladies.
nice ones that are kind.
Have you ever seen that sitcom about the BBC, W1A? Have you ever
Yes.
seen- It's my favourite.
It's true, though, isn't it? It's
It's
all
in a
true.
room called The Quran and talk about how diversity on trains in Wales
Yeah.
might help
God,
the
my
overall. What a load
ears
of honour.
bleed.
£5 billion a year, says Mr. Carl. £5 billion a year they get,
Yes.
right, from us. We get
And they
no
still can't,
say-so.
and they still lose money.
And that, like that Lineker bloke, I'm going to start
Yeah.
again, you know,
Yeah.
sticking up for everybody, a bit like Lewis
God.
Hamilton, come back from Monaco, you idiot. And no, he does my head in as well. He's a good driver. I
You
don't
mean
give a
Sir
damn.
Lewis Hamilton?
What?
I think you mean Sir.
How
Lewis
did that
Bow
happen?
down.
If he gets to Sir Gary Lineker, he can do one as well.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. But $5 billion. And their lift didn't work this week. When the Minister of Levelling Up, Michael Gove, went to do an early morning breakfast, very important speech for the Today programme with, I don't know who it was with.
Robinson.
Nick
right?
Robinson.
Nick Robinson.
And he was stuck in a lift for 30 minutes. And of course, he's the Levelling Up secretary. And they said, well, he couldn't get from one level to the other at the BBC.
Surely if they'd
That was
had any
brilliant.
imagination, they should have just stuck a camera into the lift, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
That's what I would have done.
well, no, that would be intrusion and that would be against
Invasion
diversity.
of privacy. Human rights.
Human rights in the lift. But Michael Gove said,
See,
not a
Michael
problem.
Gove going into in the lift is my kind of television.
Yeah, me too. That's
what I
kind
want
of
to see.
TGI Friday. I
I came up with genuinely, this is not no whatever like. We came up once with an idea for a television show in a lift with.
Forget carpool karaoke. Do it in the lift.
Just sit in the lift, shut the doors, turn the alarm.
There's a
on,
lot of
sit
humour.
there.
There's a lot of humour to be had in the lift.
Sweaty honesty.
Oh, the BBC don't have the creativity or the fun for that anymore.
No. So yeah, the BBC definitely, the British bloated corporation.
And there's almost
for having a
every
crap
week you can
lift
find
system.
about 5 stories as to what they've done
And
wrong.
the other guy, the radio presenter that you had on your show, Nick, which I thought was a brilliant
Nigel
interview, by the
Rees,
way.
I think his name
Nigel
was.
Rees, not
Yeah.
46 years and done this programme for BBC Radio 4 forever and ever and ever, and now gets told who to pick and what to say and what to ask. Do what I'm leaving.
Couldn't do
No,
anything
thank
from
you.
Noel Coward, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, because it's a bit too colonial.
Oh God,
And I mean-
everything. Rudyard Kipling will get the axe. I mean, everyone.
chance.
Shakespeare's gone. I don't
No,
know what
he
the
made
BBC
cakes.
doing.
He was a nice bloke, Kipling.
Well, I mean,
he
what
renounced all
chances-
that, became a chef.
What chance has Kipling got? He can't get J.K. Rowling on the BBC.
Exactly.
Don't start me on
They're
that.
all-
Do you know
that's
those 3 little
evil.
idiots? On
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
You've all had 50, 60
They should
million
give the money
likes
back.
because of her, mate.
Give it back. Give it all
Naughty,
back.
spoil. I cannot
Emma
bear
Watson,
them.
do you know something?
Yeah.
You are so right.
Ambassador
Give
to the
J.K.
UN.
Rowling your
Give it all
60
back.
million back and go back to where you came from.
Yeah.
You talentless
Snivel
little-
and cowards to not stick up for someone who's given you your life. They're all moderate actors. None of them are
Can I
particularly.
say
Nobody
something?
heard of them.
This is
They were
the
children.
absolute point for me, and I know we share this, right? Absolutely, you can disagree with the past, right? But we are also entitled to an opinion.
Yeah.
And this new generation, these woke warriors, it's that way
Yeah.
or you are cancelled. It's
Yeah.
not, OK, I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Because I might disagree with you. No, you're irrelevant.
No,
But I don't like their
You shouldn't be
future.
allowed to have
I don't
that.
want
J.K.
their
Rowling has as
future.
much right to have an opinion.
Absolutely.
I don't have to agree with it or disagree with
No.
it. That's a democracy.
Also,
isn't
by
it?
the way, it's not a particularly controversial opinion. Let's face it.
I mean, come on.
I mean, it's not like
Blokes
she's saying...
shouldn't be in women's prisons if they call themselves Barbara halfway through their sentence.
Right.
They just shouldn't.
And
J.K.
rapists should
Rowling-
not be
yeah.
able to be tried as women just
Right.
because they want to be.
You bigot, you evil person.
You're a swine!
Yes,
Yeah.
you're a horrible person.
I mean,
you.
that's outrageous, isn't it?
I know.
Absolutely shocking.
And J.K. Rowling is a national treasure. We should all be uniting
anymore,
around
she's
her
not.
and defending her. Anyone who doesn't defend J.K. Rowling, I'm slightly suspicious.
The other
of.
thing I'm going to nominate the BBC for, I don't know if you saw it, was they did a little news report on, what it was like to have 150,000 people die from,
Oh, God, they did.
they passed that terribly, terribly sad milestone. But of course, they had to make a big thing of it.
Yeah.
But what they did, instead of doing it in a way which was in any way truthful, they had this kind of ridiculous film of all these young people running about a football stadium, which by coincidence held 150,000 people.
Oh.
Now, we all know that unfortunately most of the people who did die weren't actually very young.
Well, average
So
age was
completely-
82 or
Completely
83, so-
misrepresenting the picture and completely making out that this was all sort of somehow down to this terrible, terrible disease. I mean, there's so many lies being told. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
BBC's a disgrace.
Well, they
quite
put the
frankly.
funereal
and
music
utter-
on. Do you remember
What
when they
music
had?
did you
do
say?
remember the funereal
I thought she
music?
said venereal music on then.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what goes on at the BBC. But no, they have.
Well, he
it's
does.
like a pantomime.
No, we don't at all. Listen, there's no... I've never even been there, have you?
Yeah, do you know, I've actually presented shows on the BBC
Really?
Scotland.
You
I once,
traitor.
it's very funny. Well, I'd been fired from my other job.
Oh,
so,
I
you
did
know.
get interviewed by BBC Scotland.
But here's the
Yeah,
funny,
you're
the
right.
funny bit was, it was a Sunday morning show. I had a producer from Tuesday, right? They had a staff of about
What,
10.
he hadn't been home? He'd been there since
Yeah, have you
Tuesday.
been, mate?
It's Saturday
No,
morning.
and
Knackered
then,
he
Yeah.
was.
no, but the trick was that the presenter had to read the news, right?
Right.
And so I'm not really used to reading the news, and you might think I'm very good at what I do, but I'm not very good at reading the news. And people were texting me going, "Why is Michael Caine reading the news on BBC Scotland?" Because it was literally awful. And unfortunately, they didn't record it. They recorded the whole show, but not the news, because I'd love to hear it back. Apparently, it was dreadful.
You couldn't do... You did, I think you'd
Well,
be
the
great
news
on
is
the
really
news.
hard to do, though. I can talk like this, but you can't do, 24 people today died in a bomb
No.
blast in Baghdad.
And you'd probably
That
be
doesn't
like,
sound
"Is this
right
serious?"
somehow.
No.
In Baghdad.
You have to have a
In
very
Baghdad.
serious.
Your whole body went in Baghdad. I don't know what... His chin,
what I mean?
His chin entered his stomach.
See what I mean?
Baghdad.
I can't do it.
Quite
You can go
cut out
Baghdad
the
with
BBC.
Baghdad.
Well, you can't be cheery if it's the
No.
news.
You
That's
have
the
to be
thing.
miserable all the time.
Yeah.
I do want
Exactly.
to. I shouldn't do this, but because I'm not going to name but one of the newsreaders on Talk Radio this week came out with one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
yeah.
When trying to say the word subpoenaed, they came up with subnued, and I literally, I'm not going to name
That's
that
brilliant.
person. I literally went, what? Subnued.
Subnued.
Yes.
Very
It's
good.
brilliant.
No
I love
The
comment.
thing
it.
about some of the newsreaders is when they see a word they don't know, they just have a go.
Yeah.
I try and avoid them. My
you just
names,
change
I
the
just
word,
go.
didn't you?
I had a very
Change the
long
word.
name the other day. All right, Ash. I can't. I'm not even going to get
No,
involved because
no.
I'm just going to look like an idiot.
And I love the way
Exactly right.
presenters change their tone as soon as they're talking about Macron or Merkel. It's suddenly like, oh, my heroes. And
I
it's
hate him as
everything
well.
starts going up.
Saturday
in
Night Live
roar.
used to do that because
really?
NBC used to have, and it was all like trouble in Nicaragua.
Oh.
And they used to have this woman who'd go,
Nicaragua.
"No, today Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
Hello." And she'd suddenly go into sort of, Sandinista talk.
Yes, they love their Brussels
Very
sprouts.
So that's 8 down. You're number 9.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Am I number 9?
No, she's
I
9
think
and
I'm
you're
doing,
10.
yes, I think my third. Well,
Yeah,
I know,
your third one.
I know my third plank. It's IKEA.
Yes.
IKEA, who I
Does the
like.
plank
I
come
like
in pieces
IKEA.
or do you have to put it together?
Nice.
Hey,
It's
you have to
a
put that
flat
plank
plank.
together
Very good.
yourself, yeah.
Plank. The reason they're my plank this week is they have come out saying they are cutting sick pay for their unvaccinated staff.
No, that's nice.
When they're forced to isolate if they've been in contact, they're cutting their sick pay from £400 a week to £96
What?
a week. Which is a huge,
That
huge
is a massive
difference.
cut,
and
isn't it?
the thing I have about this, which I really mind about, is this constant demonising and punishing those who have chosen not to take the vaccine feels so anti-British and wrong. And a large group are pregnant women. And the reason they haven't taken the vaccine is because when the vaccine came out, they said this is not
recommendation
for
was don't
pregnant
take it,
women.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the clinical trials didn't even include pregnant
No.
women, which is why they were concerned about taking it. So pregnant women, they're locked off now. They're not going to get any money without
shocking,
any
isn't it?
understanding, no empathy.
It's interesting, isn't it, when an organisation purports to be, moralistic
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
caring,
No more
and
meatballs
actually when
for
it comes to
either.
the
No, well,
ledger, when it comes to the cash register, they don't actually give
But
a damn.
it follows Andrew Neil's kind of, let's punish the refuseniks and the
He's
kind of
gone mad, hasn't he?
language and punishing ways that big corporations are treating their staff now. I don't know why people, or Boris or the government, aren't saying you cannot do this. It's discriminatory. There are no forced vaccinations in
Well,
this
they're also
country.
doing it because they're doing it to the NHS. Which
Well,
may or may
although
not
I
end
have
up
a
happening.
feeling they
I
might
think
turn
they
that
will.
around.
I think they will rescind
I
it.
think,
I think
yeah.
they will.
I
Because
think
it
they're
would be
gonna have
proven
to.
that
So
it
yeah,
was all-
IKEA get it for
So
me.
IKEA's good, yeah. Well, my final one is Sir Chris Whitty, the man
yes.
who's been telling us all how terrible everything's going to be for the
Is he
best part
single?
of 2 years. He is single.
I'm not surprised.
Now, I have been accused in the past of being too personal about him, so I'm not going to do that today. But he does look a bit odd, I'm sorry to say. And when he said to me, I need you to prioritise your social engagements, I thought, well, that's not a problem for you, Chris, is it? Because the last time you had a social engagement, it was probably your first confirmation or something,
He looks. I understand. You got into trouble for being personal, so I won't make it personal. He's
didn't
about
really, I
as
just got told I
inspiring
shouldn't.
as a weak old turd, isn't he?
He really is, yeah.
I don't. I
Next
can't.
slide, please.
Yeah, I can't really follow it. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm sure he's very good at his job.
I don't think he is.
No, I'm sure he's not very good at
No.
his job. I just don't ever feel inspired.
Well,
by
he's
him.
miserable and his
first of all, his
predictions are
shirts
gloomy.
don't fit, right? Now, I shouldn't be the person to accuse him of not wearing the right kind of clothes, but his shirt's about 2 sizes too big. Now, either he's got a
Can't
pencil
tie a
neck,
knot.
can't tie a tie, and unfortunately, he has the sort of, he makes Keir Starmer look like,
Rock god.
a rock, Mick Jagger,
Does he?
Well, because he's got no personality at all. But here's the reason I want to make him Playing of the Week. Because before Christmas, right, he killed off the Christmas party business. Now, it might not seem important
Yeah.
to some people, but to an awful lot of people and friends of mine who run restaurants and
They
run
were relying on
hospitality,
that.
they lost a fortune, right?
Yeah, they
because
lost
he
everything,
said, don't go out, but effectively. He also said, we don't know much about Omicron, but what we do know is all bad. Which it isn't.
Well, that was
right?
rubbish.
He refused to take the South African advice and look at their data, saying it was irrelevant. So, frankly, he's either completely and utterly willfully misled the
I'm going to
country.
tell you how good this country's been knighted for that. So
And he
that's
got
fantastic,
knighted.
isn't
No,
it?
but it's
You
a
know.
good point because businesses were destroyed,
They
families
were.
were destroyed, suicide is on the
And he
on
hasn't
the
had he
rise
hasn't
because
had the
businesses
cojones to
being
come out and
destroyed.
say sorry
Yeah.
or to explain
None of
how
them
he got
have.
No,
it
I
so
agree.
wrong.
None
of them have.
And he got it. I mean, if we got this our job so wrong, we wouldn't still be here. We
We'd get
would
a
be
knighthood,
knighted
wouldn't
for
we?
it.
But I think they get
Sir
off
Mike
for owning
Graham
it.
Yeah.
for services to broadcasting.
Exactly right.
Sir Jeremy Kyle.
Yes.
We're still there going, well, all we did was tell bloody truth. What do we know about?
Exactly right. So we haven't got a lot of time, so I'm
Yeah.
going to rush through this because
Yeah.
here's what we do now. We now choose out of each of our three one. Right. So
Okay.
Jeremy, tell Belinda
the
which your
idiot-
three were, and she'll choose one.
OVO Energy, the BBC, and Boris/Martin Reynolds.
I'm going to have to go for OVO.
Absolutely
For me, the
with
OVO
you.
Energy one, it just reflects
Idiots.
that smug disconnect between the Greenies and everyday ordinary Brits.
Absolutely.
I think that's absolutely right. So now you tell me your three.
So my three, IKEA, British, the UK Border Force, and the Colston 4.
I think it's got to be the Colston 4.
Has to.
Hasn't it?
They're as smug,
Definitely.
twitty as the Harry Potter lot. They just
Because
remind
the
they're all the
problem as
same.
well is they're now going to
Cut from
think they
the
can
same
do it
cloth.
again. Do it any way you like. So
Yeah, well,
you're
you
gonna-
can imagine getting a lawyer going, can you just use the theory of the Bristol Four?
Yeah,
the
because that
Colston Four?
statue makes
I've got a
me
speeding
feel really
ticket.
unsafe.
Right, that honestly,
I was racing away from that statue because it was
I
offending
felt
me.
threatened by
You
that. Yeah.
So my three are Australia, Chris Whitty and Boris Johnson.
Sort of think Australia, really, to be honest,
gotta
in
be,
terms of
hasn't
topicality, if I'm
Gotta
honest.
be. I'm sure
Yeah, I
Novak
agree.
will be very happy to hear that. Now we have three. We have to get who's going to be number one. So the Colston 4, Australia, OVO Energy.
Oh, that is tough.
And remember, it's not a competition. So
I would probably put the Colston 4 at number one because I think it's been the dominant story. The energy one's interesting. Australia's the Colston 4 for me says everything and nothing about where we're at in this
Yeah.
country
Yes, it
for
does.
the future.
And it
You know,
worries
an
me.
idiot boss
yeah.
of an energy company can be a plank, but it worries me that actually genuinely in terms of legality and the legal system, that can happen now again and again and again because you can quote that, by the way.
and it,
Yeah, I agree.
probably will, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
the-
think
that's
it will,
the
because I
scary
think
thing.
juries are going to be swayed now by political opinion and whether they're going to be kind or nice jurors or those mean jurors that don't agree with the political thought of the day. And that's not, they should be talking about facts, not feelings in the courtroom. And unfortunately,
That's a good slogan.
facts, not feelings.
Facts,
But
not
unfortunately, the
feelings.
Colston 4 have confirmed that,
FNF.
woke privilege wins the day.
Yeah, absolute planks. Okay, then. What about Australia for number 2, then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
do that?
think so. I mean, it is interesting. His name's Novak, isn't it?
Novak.
Novak.
That's-
I'm going to find that.
I'm
I
so
think
sorry
that's-
about Novak. Why? Oh, Novak, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've shown themselves up to be.
Yeah.
But I do go with what Belinda says, which a lot of people didn't like. They have every right in their country to do what they want. And you
I
have to
wish we were
abide
more
by the
like
rules.
that in
And
our
I do
country.
think he's a liar.
They have, but that's a very dangerous thing to call somebody, by the way. You
What?
may wish to retract it. He's got for a lot of money, Novak Djokovic.
What did I call him?
You call him a liar.
I said allegedly might be.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
nice, well played.
Well, that's better.
Yeah.
You know,
And he's
they're
not an
saying that
anti-vaxxer.
allegedly might have gone from Serbia to Spain. Allegedly
Well, he
might have gone out.
But
Yeah.
the principle,
So allegedly he could have lied.
But the principle is that they invited him in and
Yeah,
said
they
that
did.
he had permission
Yeah.
to
And the
come.
disconnect is
and it was when he
between
got
Tennis
there.
Australia, the border force, and the Australian government.
I mean,
'cause
it's
somehow
like Belinda.
he got there.
It's like Belinda inviting you around her house for dinner. When you get there, there's 2 coppers there waiting to arrest you.
Yeah, going,
It's like some kind of honey trap.
I know, but it's like an episode of Neighbours. It's a soap opera now. what they're
Would
doing.
they be there before we had any dinner? Or
Oh,
would
I don't-
Would
it
they be
depends.
hidden in the wardrobe?
Hide them in the wardrobes and
Mike and I are
surprise
coming
you.
tomorrow.
She's got a very big house.
Yeah.
That's all I know. Right, so we are pleased to say that in third place, OVO Energy and the planks that think that you should cuddle your cat to keep warm. Australia, number 2. But plank of the week, and thank you to Jeremy and thank you to Belinda, is, of course, the Colston 4. What a good choice. We'll see you next time.